Good afternoon, listeners. This is your weather enthusiast, weather podcaster, Simcha Lefton. You're listening to the podcast Weather with Enthusiasm. Today's April 10th, 2025. We have some phenomenal weather that's taking place across our country. All different types of weather, not just in our country, but really across the world. Some of this is actually record-breaking and even an inspirational heat wave that develops across the desert Southwest. Desert Southwest, we have a high-pressure ridge going well up into the atmosphere, producing sunshine, compressional warming. Brutal heat is developing over that area. You'll hear, the highest temperature so far this year, according to some sources, 107 degrees, and that occurred in Texas on Purim, believe it or not, March 14th, the same day that the Chicago area saw a high of 79, or some sources say 80 degrees. Records were also broken in portions of Illinois on that day. But that was when the temperature was 107. That was in South Texas. It's questionable whether we're going to be breaking that over the next upcoming days, but it's certainly going to get very hot across the desert Southwest. Phoenix, Arizona, looking for afternoon highs in the low to mid hundreds for this afternoon. Los Angeles, California went through a period of intense heat this week already, but it's difficult to find on the weather map. Las Vegas, Nevada, record highs forecasted there as well. We have some other cities as well. This intense heat moves east, and it translates into a little bit of a softened version of the heat by the time it reaches Kansas. That's what happens when you run into even a little bit more agriculture, slightly more humidity. The sun becomes less efficient at heating those temperatures. It also goes over the Rocky Mountains with all of the snow. Rapid snow melt expected there, obviously, when you have temperatures this high. Even the northern edge of this heat dome, it is a heat dome, temperatures going all the way up into Montana. That's the northern edge. The dome goes all the way up into portions of Montana. Temperatures hit 80 degrees there. We have highs going into the 90s this weekend for Wichita, Kansas. Record-breaking heat expected over in the Kansas area. Just to put things into perspective, so Phoenix, Arizona normally sees their first 100-degree day in the first or second week of May. That's occurring early, about a month early this year. Temperatures hit triple-digit this time around. We haven't hit triple-digit yet, to my knowledge, but that's forecasted to occur. This dome of heat moves into the plains. Again, temperatures in the 90s from Kansas all the way to Texas, and 90s in Texas actually means we'll have some areas going into the hundreds. That's the weather forecast for the desert Southwest. What's also important to point out is just sometimes Yuma, Arizona could get humid. This time around, Yuma, Arizona remains on the dry side. This is the first heat wave of the season for those locations. There's higher risk for danger when you're dealing with the first heat wave of the season. Also, intense dryness along with windy conditions causes an increased risk for wildfires. Let's move on to the Chicago area because there's lots to talk about for Chicago, especially with the upcoming holiday of Pesach, of Passover. Tomorrow mornings when we're burning the chametz, it really looks, in terms of wildfire danger, to me it really looks basically ideal for the Chicago area. Its relative humidity goes up to 80%. Winds are really not that bad, 5 to 10 miles per hour. It's a little bit chilly, but that's uncomfortable for the people. But for the fire, the conditions don't really look so bad. We have a little bit of a warm-up occurring over the weekend as temperatures go into the 60s, a little bit of a drop later on next week. So temperatures tend to fluctuate across the week for the Chicago area. We might have more details on that later on, but you can always go to the National Weather Service, which does a phenomenal job at explaining, and not just forecasting, but actually their expertise. I think, as far as I'm concerned, their expertise, the greatest contribution they make to this country regarding weather are their weather forecast discussions. So even if you could find a more accurate weather forecast elsewhere, a lot of times their information is coming from the National Weather Service forecast discussion, and they're able to take that information and come up with add to it and perhaps come up with even a more accurate forecast. That's possible. But remember, then that's a lot of this is all coming from the National Weather Service and the GFS, the National Weather Service computer model, which is free in our country. That's a free computer model, which just provides an enormous amount of information. We go now into the Kentucky area where 15 inches of rain was recorded earlier this month. Quite a phenomenal event. Heaviest rain recorded around Paducah, Kentucky. Whenever you have these, these storm systems that develop, which there will be one developing, the Storm Prediction Center has a severe weather risk for the south central states as we go into this week, head into the weekend as normal before the next cold front moves through for the beginning parts of next week. Elsewhere in the world, we have plenty of weather. We have plenty of weather extremes to talk about. Let's just go back to the floods in Kentucky. Between April 2nd and April 7th, we had a slow-moving weather system which caused widespread life-threatening flash flooding across southern and the Midwestern United States, with Kentucky experiencing the most severe impact. Rainfall accumulations exceeded 15 inches in some areas, which led to major rivers overflowing their banks and causing significant damage to nearby communities. The Kentucky River in Frankfort, for instance, crested at 48.27 feet on the morning of April 7th. That nears record levels. And this, in addition to the flooding, the same weather system produced a significant tornado outbreak. This is something unbelievable. 126 confirmed tornadoes across multiple states. This includes Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Missouri, Illinois, and Kentucky. These tornadoes unfortunately caused extensive damage and other issues as well. You just want to go back to Phoenix, Arizona. The first 100-degree day is expected to happen today. This is about 3 weeks early than what usually happens. And Las Vegas, Nevada is forecast to have highs in the upper 90s, which surpasses previous records. Denver, Colorado, temperatures are forecasted to hit 89 degrees this upcoming Saturday, this Shabbos. That breaks the record of 84 degrees set back just 2 years ago in 2023. Let's go elsewhere across the world. We have southern regions. Australia is experiencing its hottest April day in decades, with temperatures more typical of summer than mid-autumn. Melbourne is forecasted to reach its highest April temperature since 2004, potentially hitting 30 degrees Celsius on Sunday. That's 86 degrees Fahrenheit. We have another city, Adelaide, Adelaide, which is expected to endure 4 consecutive days over 30 degrees Celsius. That's the definition of a heat wave according to some of the northern areas. That's 86 degrees Fahrenheit. This unseasonable warmth is attributed to a slow-moving high-pressure system migrating from the Great Australian Bight to the Tasman Sea, which is leading to dry and hot conditions. The heat poses heightened fire risks in South Australia, Victoria, and northern Tasmania. Central Asia, we have a major heat wave to talk about, which occurred last month. It was a March heat wave. Central Asia experienced an unusually intense heat wave, with temperatures reaching record highs across the region, notably Jalalabad in Kyrgyzstan. Jalalabad and Kyrgyz. STAN had a high of 38.8 degrees Celsius. That's speaking about 87 degrees Fahrenheit. We had another area that got pretty close, highs of 84 degrees. Another area that saw highs about 85 degrees. That was the hottest March night, the area which had a low of 18.3 degrees Celsius. We're talking about if you start off at 86, you go to 68 for 20 degrees Celsius, 64 or 65 degrees Fahrenheit, but that's the hottest March night in the country's history. We go into Europe. Europe experienced its hottest March on record, with average air temperatures 2.41 degrees Celsius above the recent average for the period of March 1991 through 2020. The significant increase raises concerns for some people, but not for others, not for weather enthusiasts that thrive on things like this. Going into India, early heat wave alert. India is facing an early and intense summer in 2025. On April 8th, just a couple days ago, the India Meteorological Department issued the first heat wave alert of the year due to rising temperatures across the country. This early onset of extreme heat poses some concerns for some. India is currently experiencing an intense heat wave with several regions recording exceptionally high temperatures. For early April, Delhi on April 7th, capital, recorded its first heat wave of the season. Temperature reaching 104 Fahrenheit, that's 40.2 degrees Celsius. Rajasthan, the city of Barmer, reported a sizzling high of 45.6 degrees. We're dealing with 114 degrees Fahrenheit. That was also on April 7th. That surpassed a 26-year-old record. Gujarat, India, areas like Surendranagar and Kutch experienced temperatures between 43 and 44 degrees Celsius. That's between 111 and 113, or, it's actually, it's a little bit, temperatures between 108 and 110 degrees. So red and orange alerts were affected. There are Pradesh, maybe I'm pronouncing the area wrong, cities including Kanpur, Varanasi, Prayagraj, Prayagraj, and Hamirpur have seen temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius in the first week of April. The India Meteorological Department has issued warnings indicating that the heat wave conditions are likely to persist. There's a moderate to high probability of heat waves in regions such as Saura, Shtra, and Kutch, West Rajasthan, and Gujarat, East Rajasthan, Punjab, and Haryana during the first half of April. It's recommended from health organizations that people stay hydrated and they limit sun exposure, avoiding activities during peak hours between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m., and wear appropriate clothing, light-colored, loose-fitting garments to stay cool, and monitor vulnerable individuals. Keep a check on the elderly, children, and those with pre-existing health conditions, as they are more susceptible to heat-related illnesses. For the most accurate and up-to-date information, refer to the official communications from the India Meteorological Department, and stay tuned to local news outlets. That brings an end to our weather episode for today. I wish everybody a Chag Kosher v'Sameach. Stay safe. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for listening.